So that's my preload all set up. Time to get out there and test it out and see how it feels. And once this thing starts going around the corners all right and I'm happy with the way it's handling, we'll check out what we can do with the damping. After I've done the preload, I'm going to do the damping on the shocks front and back.
Are you winding me up?
No, I'll do the preload on my new shock and the forks. I'll do the preload on my forks. No, I'll do the damping on my forks now. I've done the preload.
Have you been drinking?
No, well, do you not do that?
You know you don't fucking do that. Oh. Nobody fucking does that.
Oh.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Okay.
I'm going in. It's fucking ridiculous.
You sure?
I don't know what you're on about. You're fucking weird.
Oh, okay. Oh, I guess Kieran doesn't do that then. Fuck.
Honestly, it's the stupidest thing ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
Oh. After I've done the preload, I'm gonna tackle the damping.
No, don't do that. No.
I'm doing the damping on the bike later on. What do you think on the Daytona? Hi mate, I'm doing the damping on the Daytona later. What do you think?
Here, twat you, what the fuck are you at there?
So, and then after I've done the preload, and I think I've got that sorted, I'm going to muck around with the damping.
No way! Fucking hell, that's ridiculous. You pervert. Ridiculous, yeah.
When I finish that, I'm doing the damping too.
As well?
Yeah, wouldn't you?
I don't know.
Yeah, when I'm done, I'm going to be doing the damping on it too.
What the fuck would you want to be doing that for? Jeez.
I'm doing the damping on the Daytona later, Alan.
What the fuck is damping?
What do you mean? What's wrong with doing the damping? Fuck, kids today. All right, Zach, I'm doing the damping on the Daytona later.
Dad, the neighbour's talking all weird again.
So we've got a preload set right then. So what do I need to do now? I've got these great adjustable shocks. Adjustable for compression damping, rebound damping, and rebound damping on the rear shock. So what am I going to do? Look, adjust them out, get your manual, find out which way it is, and wind them fully soft. So all the way out. Okay, last click. So I'm winding them in their fully softest position and then winding it back till it clicks. So I'm going to do that on the rebound and the compression damping. So I'm going to do this here too. Fully soft. I know it's fully anti-clockwise on these forks. Okay, fully soft. I'll do the other side too. So my shock here, there's an adjuster just up there top left. Where are you? There we are. Okay. So I know he's fully anti-clockwise to soften the damping. So I'm going to wind him back all the way. Right, that's easy to get to. My fingers, it's just behind that spring. You can just see it moving there. Anyway, fully anti-clockwise as I'm looking from the bottom. So that's my front and rear end, fully soft, the minimum damping. I'll go and ride it down a road now, like that now. And then all I need to take is that one screwdriver with me. And then I can push it fully over the other way. The most damping, same on the rear shock. Then I'll know the capabilities, the two ends of the spectrum. And then I can put them somewhere in between or somewhere near the firmer side or somewhere near the softer side. When I'm satisfied, I get the ride I want. Right, I have my suspension in the fully maximum damping front and rear. And I'll tell you, I can feel every pebble in the road. So it's quite a difference from the fully undamped position, or minimum damping position. Yeah, I can feel every undulation, and I know it just means, I mean, look at the front of the bike. Look at that mirror there, yeah. So if I get a slightly bigger bump, what's happening is my spring's not getting compressed, it's over damped, and my rear wheel's probably leaving the road on some of these slightly bigger undulations. So I'm way too over damped here, probably a little bit more so on the back than the front, but I can tell you the back end of this bike, it hasn't taken long to realise that this is too much damping. Now, if I was on a track day, look, I don't do track days, but I mean, if I was on a track day and I was on a track and it was super smooth track, this might suit me, but not on a general road like this. It's too over damped. So what I'll do is, when I get a chance, I'll pull over and I'll adjust the damping, so I know what my maximum limit is then, and I know it's not nice. Not nice for general road riding. Now that's me. If you're a lighter person on this bike, it would be even more pronounced. So, but I'm glad it's like this. It means I know I can go. I know I can pass the point of comfort, if you know what I mean. So it's not like I can't damp this bike enough if I needed to. So, but I can instantly tell. It only took, you know, well, it was fairly instantly, but I mean that road there just highlighted it quite well. So I'm under damped. It's not a pleasant ride. It's not terrible. You could ride all day like it, but there's better to be had. And just because I got a lot of damping, it doesn't mean to say I can go around corners faster or anything like that. It just means actually my tyre is probably losing traction with the road on some of the bigger undulations. So I'll find somewhere to pull over and change the damping to the fully the least damping position. So it'll take me 5 minutes, no, it'll take me 2 minutes to change the damping on this bike. So I'm at the maximum damping. I know what it's like. It's too much damping, front and rear. I'm feeling every pebble in the road. So now I'm going to change it all the way the other way to the minimum amount of damping and see what that gets me. Yeah, it doesn't like speed humps. See, this is a really nice piece of fresh road, and it doesn't matter where you have your damping set on a lovely smooth piece of road, because you don't need your suspension if you were just cruising along. Like, it's not like the bike's unrideable, it's just less than ideal, and it's an easy thing to change. So do that, get your bike, push your suspension to the maximum damping front and rear, see what ride you get out of it, and then push it all the way over to your minimum. So I'm on my maximum now, I know what it's like. I'm going to stop somewhere and adjust it all the way to the minimum and see what the difference is, and find a happy medium somewhere in between. Now it might be near the top end, it might be near the bottom end, but by doing this I know what the two extremes are, and I know what I'd like. Like, the bike's nice and taut here, and it's going around the corners nicely and everything like that. That's got jack all to do with the damping. That's me setting up my preload nicely on this bike. I have this bike lovely balanced, but that going through those bends and stuff like that, that's my preload. That's the attitude of my bike. There's a church just here. Oh, I think we'll pull over near the church and change my damping to absolute minimum. I think there's a church over here anyway. Oh yeah, here we are. Oh, it's very nice. Right, let's change this damping. So, fork adjusters, top and bottom on this bike, all the way back. So I'm doing my compression and rebound damping on the front. So I've got 4 adjusters there. And then just 1 for the rear shock. Right, that's my front end on minimum damping. Now I've got to get to the rear shock. Just get my adjuster here. It's easy to get to from the right hand side. That's it, that's my new wheelbars. The fully minimum damp position. Let's see how that's changed the ride. That's a nice charger. Right, that's my damping in the minimum damping position. I can feel just getting on the bike the change. That's a complete difference. I think a little bit more so on the back than the front. But it's definitely given me a more compliant ride already, which, well, that's unsurprising. But let's find out, is it too underdamped? And by underdamped, is it going to become too boingy? You know, I'm going to go over bumps and undulations and find it takes too long for the suspension to settle, and I can already tell it is a bit. I wouldn't say the bike's a pogo stick, but it takes more than a cycle to settle down after an undulation. So I'm getting much more suspension travel than I did with it set in the hard position, in the maximum damping position. But I could probably keep most of that treble, but just damp it down a little bit more. It's a little bit too springy. So that's great to know though, because it just shows with the maximum and minimum adjustment range on my damping, I can get the bike under damped and over damped, which means I've got adjustment to get a nice happy medium for myself. Now I'll err on the side of a more comfortable ride. So I'm probably going to be, I reckon I'll probably end up like at the 70-80% mark of the damping adjustment. Yeah, a bit too springy, bit too springy. Not terrible, mind. Again, even the damping adjustment at the two extremes, you can still ride the bike, it's not desperate. I mean, for a 25-year-old sports bike, this is a pretty shitty road actually. You know, it's not doing too badly. It's not doing too badly at all for a compliant ride. Now my Tiger would chew this road up. I wouldn't even know I was on a bumpy road on that thing. But this is a sports bike, or, you know, it was supposed to be a sports bike. What it was just a bloody heap of horsepower and a big old heavy frame and fairing. But That's nice. I like that. But I'm gonna change it. So this will only take me seconds. I know how many full turns I've got either way, so I'm fully soft, so I'm gonna 1, 2, I'm gonna go 3 clicks. 1, 2, 3. No, I'm gonna go 4. So I've increased the damp in there slightly. I'll do the compression and the rebound. So I've got the same amount of clicks either end. So I'm going to get to this shock without burning myself. Good. That's really easy to adjust that, Wilbers. So I've probably put the damp in back to about 70% of its adjustment. 70-75%. Towards the softer side. And you know, I bet I'm going to be 95% of the way where I want it to be. Anything else is just going to be fiddling. Where'd I put my glove? In my bloody bag. So I reckon this is going to be it. I knew it's far too harsh on the most damping. On the least damping, I didn't mind it, but it just needed a tiny bit extra. So that's what I've given it. Right, the final verdict. I already know. That's lovely. I've got quite a smooth, compliant ride, but I've lost that boinginess. That's beautiful. Yeah, I'm going over the rough stuff on purpose. It's like, you're never going to get bikes like this. Well, but you know, cruiser like. But that's quite a compliant ride, but a lot of control. I really like the feel of that. But I mean, you can go kind of up and down to that, either way to suit yourself. But generally, the lighter you are, the less damping you'll need. I need a fair bit of damping on this bike because I'm a heavy guy. You know, if you want to try and tell the difference, I can kind of feel the back, I can feel the front. I kind of know that they're both kind of acting in a similar way. They were both over damped and they were both under damped at the extremes. So I didn't mind adjusting both at the same time. You might decide, look, I'm going to concentrate on the forks and just adjust the damping on those until I get that to how you want them. and then concentrate on the rear shock. And then just ride it round for a few days, and then just see, and you'll get a feeling for it, and you go, oh, you know, maybe I could do with just a little bit more damping there on the front, and just maybe an extra 1 click. Great test bed road. Oh well, this is, you know, a lot of back roads in Ireland are a bit like this, but yeah, great test bed road. Really enjoying this bike with refurb forks and a new shock at the rear. Now this road's a little bit smoother, and I'm getting a very compliant ride here now. Yeah, handles those speed bumps no problem. Yeah, I'm really happy with that. They're probably going to pretty much stay there, those adjustments. So great. That's my preload done, the stance of my bike. That's my damping done. Airing on the slightly plusher side. But even the maximum damping, which some people might say sportier side, it's not really sporty side. You wouldn't want your bike damped like that. Feeling every ripple in the tarmac. It won't make you go faster around a corner. So there I am. I think I'm pretty much there. If anything, I know I can feel it myself. I'll probably take a little bit of that damping back off the front end and a tiny bit more on the rear end. So over the next week of driving the bike, I'll just fine tune it. But that'll probably be it. Then you can have this whole thing done in an hour. So set your preload, get the attitude of your bike right, and then move on to your damping. And once you have your preload set, if you find you're struggling through the corners on the bike, it's reluctant to go through the corners, then maybe add a bit more preload to the rear, or slacken off at the front if you have adjustable preload at the front, and just take the attitude of the bike slightly nose down. Do it a little bit of a first. You know, because like a millimetre on the rear shock is going to be several millimetres, you know, 3 or 4 millimetres on the wheel, on the, you know, by the time you get the attitude of the bike. And sometimes it's that tiny difference that's all you need. Don't go like dropping your bloody forks an inch in the yokes because you think it will get you around bends faster. Like if you set your preload, as I say, roughly the same, 25-30% front and rear, you're gonna kind of be there. And just take it out on a bit of a twisty road and just get a feel for, oh, I could do with it being a bit sharper. I've got this now where I'm going around a bend and I know it doesn't feel like it wants to drop in the bend, but it, you know, it's not oversteering, it's not understeering. And it's not some fucking rocket science. It's where I set the preload and it's just fine. I don't need to adjust it anymore. So when you get your new bike, concentrate on getting your preload sorted first. Even if it only has twin shocks and an adjuster on each shock, get that right for your weight first. Like that's a real 10-minute job. Get a mate to tape measure. Get that right first. And don't forget, when you're loading up or going 2 up, just add more preload. Bring the bike back to where it should be. And you'll keep your steering geometry and you'll keep your bike riding nice. Right, and if you're going to do anything with your suspension, change your shocks, change your fork springs, change your fork oil, know why you're doing it. The amount of people on YouTube saying, oh, I threw out the Royal Enfield springs and I put in these progressive ones. Well, if you didn't know what the spring rate was of the Royal Enfield ones you're throwing away, and you don't know what the spring rate of the new springs you're buying, why have you just believed that whatever it is you're buying is any better? It could have the exact same spring rate, it could be a wildly different spring rate. Most bikes come with progressive springs now anyway. Some don't, but most do for general road use. And people buying rear shocks, sticking them on bikes and telling you, oh yeah, it's made a huge difference, when they didn't even tell you what the problem was with the shock in the first place. Like, they didn't tell you, yeah, the spring rate just isn't big enough for a guy my size. I've used up all my suspension. Or they're completely underdamped, or they're completely overdamped. Or, you know, and they're just changing suspension, spending 700, 800, 900 euros and saying, yeah, it's bloody brilliant, that is. You want one of those. Because they got a sent a free one in the post. Like, know why you're changing something. Identify a problem and then fix it with the right choice of product. And if you can't be arsed with all of that, just go to a suspension specialist, a motorcycle suspension specialist, and say, look, this is what I think the problem is with the bike, you know, like it's jarring me, or it's really uncomfortable to ride, or I'm struggling to get round corners, and they can talk it through with you and recommend what you need. And they'll measure the sag of the bike with you sitting on it and all sorts of stuff like that, and they can tell you whether your springs are too weak for your weight and all that sort of stuff. But you can do a lot of this shit yourself. Geez, these old Triumphs sound like a bag of nails, don't they? So now it's about a week later, and I've been driving around with this setup for about a week, and you get a good feel for the bike and all sorts of roads and stuff. So I know what I want to do now, and I'm just going to tinker with it ever so slightly. So I'm going to put a tiny bit more preload on that rear shock, maybe another millimetre, which will bring the back end up a tiny bit. I just want to make it slightly sharper steering at the front. But I'll just do a millimetre on that preload, and that'll probably raise that back 3 or 4 millimetres or so. And then I'm going to take some of the damping off the front fork. Maybe just 1 or 2 clicks though. So I got it kind of 90% there, really, in an hour's testing. And then over the last week, you kind of get a feel, you're thinking about it a bit more. And I know I just need to marginally change it. But now, that's perfect for me. And that bike will probably stay that way now. The preload definitely will. But the damping's probably going to stay that way. I've got it slightly set on the plusher side, but that's because I'm an old man. So try and do your suspension setup. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. Oh, and you see, you know, I had separate compression and rebound damping on those front forks. There's only one setting on the back, as there are on most bikes, rebound damping, until you get to the expensive bikes and they start getting a bit more fancy. But generally on the compression and rebound damping on the front forks, you're kind of going to want to set them in a similar fashion. You know, it doesn't have to be click for click. If I do 2 clicks on the top, it's 2 clicks on the bottom or anything like that. But generally, you know, if you're going to have a softer damping on the compression stroke, you're going to have a softer kind of damping on the rebound stroke as well. You wouldn't kind of go fully hard one way and soft the other way. You can if you want, but you probably wouldn't. You know, it wouldn't give you a great ride. So that's my bike finished. Preload done, damping done, got it set up just perfect. So I ride it like that for everyday use. That's great. Now, would I ever change that damping? Not really on this bike because it's a solo bike. I'm never going to change the luggage. My weight's not going to change that much. So there's no real need for me to change that damping. But if this was your own bike and you were going off camping or sometimes going off 2-up or loading up with luggage or whatever like that, you would change the damping. And essentially, the more load you're putting on, the more damping you want. So you know when some people say, I watched a vlogger the other day reviewing a CB500X, a Honda CB500X, and he said it was very boingy, underdamped. Now, I think he's a similar size to me, around 17, 18 stone, something like that. And, you know, that bike might not have that characteristic at all for an 11 stone guy or girl, or an 8 stone guy or girl. And so that's just, take these vlogger reviews with a pinch of salt, because that damping is personal to your weight and what you're carrying. And the more you carry, ideally, the more damping. You'd think intuitively, oh, I'm taking a pillion, I'll soften up the damping and make it a lovely smooth ride for them. But you actually might make it a bouncy ride for them. Look, here's just a quick example here. See, look, let's pretend this is my spring. It's just a bit of wire, bit of welding wire. But look, anything can be a spring if it's springy, and that's springy. So, this is my spring. This is me as a rider. And okay, it's a totally undamped spring, but this is why you need more damping. Okay, I go over a bump. And that's my undamped spring, and that's why we have damping, to stop that carrying on forever and ever. But look at the amplitude of that. Maybe 30, 40 mil maximum. Now, if I apply the same forces, but I got another pillion and some tents and shit like that, and luggage and all that, this is why I need more damping. Right, so I've added a second rider, pillion. So now we go over that same bump, starting at the same place. Now look at the size of the oscillations now, much bigger, nearly twice as much in this example. So again, totally undamped, but the oscillation is much bigger. So when you start adding a load of gear or pillions to your bike, you want to actually up the damping as well at the same time. You think leaving it on a comfort setting would intuitively think, oh, that'll be nice and comfy from a pillion, but it won't be. It'll be like sitting on a pogo stick. So if you load up, increase your damping if you've got damping adjustment. So tomorrow I'm going to change the preload on the Daytona.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
All right, that's a really good idea, Terry.
Yeah, I thought so too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea, but don't forget to increase the up. Okay.
It'll help you for every
Ava, you do it.
Sure. No, I'm going to do the damping on my bike later. What do you think?
Pardon?
Bye. Jerry. Will you not do it?
You know.
Hi Zara. How's it going? I thought I'd... Okay, so she wants to explain that. Right. Get it out of your system, Ali. Yeah. So tomorrow I thought I'd... well, I've changed the preload. Oh, fuck off, Ali. So tomorrow I'm going to finish off adjusting the preload on the Daytona. What do you think?
will not survive, Captain. The ship can't handle it. The whole thing's going to explode.
Hi girls, well, I'm going to increase the preload on the Daytona this weekend. What do you think?
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea, but don't forget to upload the free. Oh no.
Hi girls, I'm going to upload the preload on the Daytona this afternoon. What do you think?
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea, but don't forget to preload.
After I've done the preload, I'm going to set the damping, the compression and rebound damping. After I've set the preload, I'm going to muck around with the compression and rebound damping on the rear shock and the front forks.
Oh, sorry.